Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you may be in the world. This evening, join me for a chat as I start restyling a maxi dress. Let's talk sewing, what it was like working backstage, and the next step in dressing for retirement. Take it away, Kaz. Okay, so you'll recognise this brown stripy dress that I bought as part of a haul. It was from Marks and Spencer. And it's a lovely dress, but the thing I didn't like was it's got empire line and it's waisted. Now the empire line is slightly elasticated. You'll see it better actually, there'll be a photograph right next to me. Waist is elasticated too, and it sort of causes this bit of a bulge, you know, around the middle where you absolutely do not want it. Not when you're, you know, middle-aged and onward, shall we say. So what I'm doing is basically I'm taking the waist out of the dress so it will just fall from the empire line. Now, I could have cheated and just pulled this through, cut the elastic that you can just about see, I think, poking through there, and left that stitching in and just pressed it. But I wanted to do it properly, and inside you see it's hemmed there, and then there's another row of stitching, well, 2 rows of stitching there actually, that encase the elastic, and it's those 2 rows of stitching I want to take out, because then it will just have that one seam. It will sit a lot better, and it won't look like I've taken the elastic out. But for a start off, we can take this out. No, actually this is attached at the sides, so it would have been tricky to do that anyway. So what I'm doing at the moment, oh, there's a lot of fabric, it's sort of difficult to show you. Okay, so at the moment I'm undoing this seam here, which is that one. It's actually sewn on the inside. And once I get a start, it'll probably be easier undoing it on the inside. I'm using a quick unpick to do it. Now, I'm not going to sit and do the whole thing while I talk to you all. The video would be rather long. This is quite a loose weave fabric, and you know those quick unpicks are very good at unpicking, you know, the weave of the fabric that you're working with, and making a hole in it, which is the last thing I want to do. No, it's probably going to be better doing it from the other side. What also makes it easier is every time you've got a bit of thread that you've unpicked, cut that off. So you're working with a clean edge basically. So you can see there, I've just unpicked that bit from there to there. I do hope this is working. Oh, another thing I wanted to show you is my sewing tin think it's, yeah, sorry, it's safe to see inside. This is a squirrel confectionery tin, and I can remember going into the local sweet shop with my mum before I started primary school, and one of the things we needed on the list was a tin, and it had the measurements, you know, minimum requirement for measurements for our sewing kit for school. It's been battered over the years, but I got this in 1957, which seems like, I was going to say it seems like another century. It was another century, Kaz. Get with it. And yeah, I can remember the day that I went into the shop with my mum to get it. And we knew the lady in the sweet shop quite well. I used to have sweets on a Friday after school. I did the same thing with my kids, actually, when they were growing up. I mean, I'm sure they managed to get sweets on other days, but we call them lollies in Australia, which I find very confusing, because to me, lollies, being brought up in the UK, are ice lollies. Anyway, yeah, I did the same thing with my boys. Friday, you know, end of the school week was lolly day. I think it's good to do that. Restrict it to one day a week, and it's a bit of a treat and something to look forward to, and it also restricts their sugar intake a bit, helps their teeth. Anyway, my mum and I went into the shop, and this was sitting on the counter with it had the lid up like this. It's Squirrel's Confectionery. It used to be lovely little sort of jellies that were covered in sugar in little packets. It used to be threepence each, and they were all sort of sitting in this tin, you know, it's a display item. And my mum said to the lady in the shop, I can't remember what her name was, it's probably come to me while I'm doing this, said, oh, hello, Mrs. So-and-so, young, I won't say my real name, is starting school soon, and she needs a tin for her sewing things. And she said, oh, really? And my mum said, yeah, it needs to be a specific size, actually one just like that, but you're using that as a display item, aren't you? So I don't suppose you'd want to take the packets out just for, would you? And she sort of looked at me and said, oh, I think we can do that. So she went and got a box and put the little bags of sweets in there and gave me the tin. And I still have it with all my sewing things in. See, I do keep things for quite a long time. I'm sure that when I move on to whatever's next, somebody will probably just throw that out, which would be a shame. I mean, in better condition, it would be worth quite a few dollars. That they're very collectible old tins, even in that condition. But it, you know, it's not monetary value to me. It's just sentimental value. I can just remember that day. Sorry, I'm a bit of a slow and picker because, as I said, I do not want to make a hole in this fabric. It's not the sort of fabric that's easy to darn. I find it quite therapeutic doing things like this. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, seeing as I'm sort of remodelling something here, is the next step in your retirement dressing. If you've been through your wardrobe and sort of taken out the obvious sort of, you know, whatever your work uniform in inverted commas was, you know, corporate suits, whatever, things that you just won't fit into your new life. And if you found a charity like Dress for Success that you could give them to, that would be great. sell them on eBay. I mean, look, keep the money if you need it to, buy more casual clothes or whatever. New handbag. Treat yourself. I mean, why not? You've earned it. I mean, goodness knows, we work hard enough. A lot of us are mothers. We not only work full time, we share in house duties. Well, I hope we're just sharing them. I hope we don't do them all. I mean, I know my mum pretty much used to do them all, but that was a different generation then. We've done all of that, raised kids probably, and worked for, 40 years or whatever. I mean, blimey, you deserve a new handbag. Or whatever, Donate the money to your local charity. Whatever makes you feel good. But as I said, that was the first step to get rid of the obvious. Now, the next step, and this one isn't as easy, and I know because I've just been doing some of it myself, is going through your wardrobe and finding out, well, you probably know what doesn't fit you anymore. It might not necessarily, look, I'm not making very quick progress with this, am I? I've done that much now. I'll talk as I unpick. Hopefully, if you've emptied your first rail, the obvious sort of ones to cull, and done whatever to them, you should now have an empty rail. The next thing to do, go through your wardrobe and be really honest with yourself and look at things and say, does this fit me anymore? Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and I've been doing a bit of that today, and I've looked at a couple of things and thought, I don't know, I might be able to, But guys, you've got to be realistic. I mean, even if you are planning on losing weight, whatever, we might get back to roughly the same weight that we were before. I mean, I'm not far off the weight I was before. Well, before the menopause and, all those wonderful things that happen to us. When we lose that, when the fairy hormones take them away. The thing is, we end up a different shape. And body fat is distributed in a different place to where it was distributed before. So even if I get back to the same weight that I was before the menopause, which I'm only about 3 kilos off that weight now. As I said a couple of videos ago, I've lost about 3 kilos just doing YouTube, seriously. Just being more active. And, sorry, I alternate between scissors and the quick unpick, it sort of varies. I can tell by looking at some things that because the way my body shape has changed, and when we're younger, our body fat is sort of more evenly distributed all over our body. When we get the middle-age spread, it used to be called, it's not a very nice way of putting it, but you know what I'm saying. The weight sits a bit round the middle, doesn't it? And unfortunately, when you lose weight, when you diet, or even if you exercise, it's very, very difficult to target where you want to lose the weight. I mean, if you lose weight, it's going to come off, in general, over your whole body. You really can't target abdominal fat. If you're prepared to do an awful lot of exercising, maybe, yes, but, you have to ask yourself, do I really want to spend that much time just so that I can get back into, this dress or that pair of jeans or whatever? Life is short, and like I said, we've worked hard when we get to this time in our lives, and it's a time to be enjoyed. And also it's a time when I think you should be able to go to your wardrobe, take anything out of your wardrobe, put it on and know that it fits you. Because that's what I found is annoying. It's not only annoying that it doesn't fit you anymore, but it's the time. Do you know what I mean? If it's suddenly a nice sunny day and you think, oh, I'd like to go out for a walk, or, you know, I might just go and look around the shops today, or I might meet up with a friend for a coffee. You don't want to spend 2 hours going through things in your wardrobe because half of them really don't fit you. I mean, it's pretty pointless, isn't it? So if it doesn't fit you, and you don't think it's going to fit you again, put it on the rail. Now, if it's something you particularly like, don't necessarily discard it because it doesn't fit you. We can alter things, you know. Reduce, reuse, recycle applies to clothes as well. Some of them can be altered. Dresses can be made into skirts, all sorts of things. I've got 2 dresses at the moment, sort of knee length dresses. I bought 2 exactly the same that I'm planning to turn into a maxi dress, and that'll be a sewing project I'll show you in a few weeks' time. I've also got a couple of black skirts that I bought from Suburb, which is an Australian store that I'm pretty sure they're only in Australia. Actually caters for teenagers, but you'd be surprised what you can get from stores like that, really. I picked up 2 skirts in the sale for $10 each. And how are we going? You see what I mean? Look, it's slow going. I've only done from there to there. But I'm getting there. The thing with sewing, particularly when you're altering something, or, you know, styling it, remodelling it, whatever you want to call it, doing alterations to it, you need patience. It's not the sort of thing that you can do in a hurry. So don't suddenly think, oh, I could make that into a whatever and wear it this evening. You probably could, but you probably won't be able to do it very well. Do you know what I mean? It does take time. And it is, I can't stress enough, it is so easy to make a hole, particularly in fabric like this. And it's not easy to cover up. The other thing with me with sewing is I can only do this sort of thing for so long before the arthritis starts getting a bit ouch. Not meaning to get the violin out, but you know what I mean. It just really does hurt. I mean, I love sewing. I wish I could sit here. I could quite happily sit here all day doing stuff like this. I find it really calming, soothing, relaxing. I just love it. Anyway, let's get back to that rail. So if you've had a look through your wardrobe, and it's, you know, just do a first pass. I mean, you're not going to get them all at once. You know the things that really, really don't fit you anymore. So be brave, take them out, put them on the rail. Can you make them into something else? I mean, it depends, look, what your sewing skills are like. If you don't know how to sew, if you don't have sewing skills, but it interests you, then, you know, loads of places do evening classes, daytime classes, I would say, for, I hate using the word seniors, but, you know, for seniors during the day, you know, and learn how to sew. I mean, it's never too late, and it is so handy. You know, knowing how to alter things, replace a zip, all those sorts of things. I can't tell you, it is just so useful. It really is. Wait and see what I make out of those 2 black skirts. I'll give you a bit of a clue. If any of my subscribers watch Tamara's videos, I like watching her videos. I like the fashion in them. You know, it's a good way of keeping up to date with what the trends are without taking fashion too seriously, you know. And I've just watched her video which came out a couple of days ago, Paris Fashion Week, and she's done some really good ones this year. You know, New York Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, and this is the last one. Oh, London Fashion Week, which isn't quite a week, but it's still called London Fashion Week. Ending up, of course, with Paris Fashion Week, which is always the last one. Sorry, there's a tricky bit here. This is obviously where the thread ran out, and it's been sewn over a couple of times, so I need to be careful with this bit. Anyway, she's done some really good ones this year. I mean, look, she has a whole team working with her, obviously. And the videos are like, you know, they're movie length and they're really good. Anyway, blow me down. I ordered these 2 black skirts from Suburb about a month ago. In the sale, as usual, you know, like I do. I like a sale. $10 each, and I thought, I'll make a skirt out of those. I've got an idea for that. Now, it wasn't anything that I'd actually seen, so I wasn't basing this on a style, you know, that was already in existence. Well, or so I thought. Until I saw this video of Tamara's. And blow me down if, to keep things on a, you know, an even keel, shall we say, if the outfit that Chloé had provided for her, this white number, was like the dress version of this skirt that I'm going to be making out of these 2 shorter skirts. And I thought, I don't believe it, honestly. I swear sometimes my house is bugged, because things like that happen and you think, really? Like we both thought of exactly the same thing? And you'll see when I show it you, honestly, I just could not believe it. Even him indoors said, isn't that like the skirt you were going to make with those 2? I said, absolutely. Clearly I'm ahead of the trend. I mean, I should be flattered, shouldn't I? It's bothering me. I've got the end of a white thread here, and I don't want to cut it because this is sewn with brown cotton, so it could be a thread that I've pulled, which would be annoying. But I can tease it back in again. Anyway, I'll show you when I get round to doing this black skirt, which will be in the next couple of weeks. I might do it next week, actually, I think. I could even show you the start of it during this video, as a thought. Because I'm sure you'll want to be watching more than me and picking a brown and white striped Marks and Spencer dress for, you know, half an hour or however. Don't worry, I won't be doing that. I'll just show you, you know, bits of it. Sometimes with stitching you're lucky, and you know, if it's that sort of overlock type stitching, you can just get the right thread and you can just pull a whole load of it out. Unfortunately, this isn't like that. And it's a stitch by stitch to be unpicked. And look, if you don't have the patience to do this, don't do it. It's tedious. Unless you enjoy it. You know, if it's not fun, don't do it. This dress was all right before with the, you know, with the elastic in the waist. I just thought it looked just added to the bulk around this area here, you know, where you really don't, you just don't want it, do you? I know it was Jolie that wanted me to do a bit of sewing. I must admit, if my fingers were in bed and nick, I would do a lot more sewing than I do. And it's because I've done a lot of sewing that's partly caused the blooming arthritis, isn't it, in the first place? Anyway, where am I up to now? Let me have a look. Okay. Right, well, I've done that much now, so, you know, I think as well, if you've got a friend who likes to sew, it's a good sort of thing to sit and have a natter while you're doing something like this, you know, if you've got something to unpick that's going to take quite a long time. It's good to sit and have a yarn with somebody while you're doing it. It's what used to be nice about the wardrobe department in the theatre. In between, you know, the whir of the electric sewing machines. If we were doing hand sewing or anything that required reasonable amount of attention but not all of our focus, we'd sit and have a yarn about anything and everything. Quite a lot of it was poking fun at the actors, I mean. Goes without saying, backstage staff just do that all the time. I'll tell you what it's a bit like. It's a bit like upstairs and downstairs, you know what I mean? There's the actors on stage and there's a slot backstage, and, you know, sure, the actors are the star of the show, but, oh, trust me, without backstage staff, they'd have nothing. I don't mean that actors are not nice people in general. I mean, they can be nice. They can be a bit up themselves, but then I've known backstage people be a bit up themselves as well. I'll put this plastic thing here so it doesn't keep making a noise when I put the scissors down. It's better. I find it difficult to pull these two pieces apart. Probably there's some funny things. I'll tell you what used to really be funny. Sometimes were costume fittings. You know, particularly older actresses. I remember one actress, and she's not around anymore, and I won't name names because I don't like name dropping. Who, you know, you do the read through for the show, you know, meet everybody, meet the director, etc., etc. And then you have your first appointment with the wardrobe department and you get measured. And of course the tape measure is always wrong. You know, the older actresses become, or I should say actors now, but the reason I still call them actresses is so that you know that I'm talking about somebody who's female. That is the only reason. Or, you know, or you've got to say, or the actor who is a woman, or the actor called, you know, whatever. Anyway, there's this one actress I should say, in particular. So I've even got myself doing it now, being politically correct, blimey. And I said, right, I said, if you wouldn't mind putting your arms out to the side, I said, and I'll just measure around your bust and your waist and your hips. I said, no, please don't breathe in because you will need to breathe when we make the costume for you. And I always used to say, I'm not breathing in. It's like, you are. And I thought, fine. You know, you've got to make them be realistic. I mean, they've got to be comfortable on the stage for, well, you know, if it's Shakespeare, it could be 2.5, 3 hours. Some of the characters are on stage most of the time. And even if they're not, they've got their cozies on for the whole show. And then you'd get the ones that say, oh, you don't need to measure me. Is that the chart? Or I'll just fill it in. And I'd say, well, do you know what the measurement is from your shoulder to, you know, to your wrist with your elbow bent at 90 degrees then? And they'd say, no, why? And I said, well, because I need that measurement because, you know, it's a period costume. The lower half of the sleeve is tightly fitted and you need to be able to bend your arm. And they'd say, oh, okay, I see. And slowly they'd, you know, they'd start to understand. And it's best in the beginning, I used to find, to, give them a bit of slack, you know what I mean? Give them a bit of leeway and try and be friends with them. It's always best. I mean, it is whatever sort of job you're doing, but particularly in theatre, because you're working very closely with people. And you might as well get on. I mean, it makes life easier, doesn't it? In general. I think theatre's a great lesson in life. That's what I used to teach my students. The last job I had in theatre was I ran the student theatre at the University of Queensland in Brisbane for 5 years. And taught in an informal way theatre skills to budding actors, lighting people, sound people, design people, you know, whatever their thing was. And that was brilliant. I even did a couple of shows, just, you know, just the hell of it. And just to show them that, you know, I can walk the talk, which I think is important. You know, you can't expect young people to believe what you're saying is right if you don't show them that you can do it yourself. Learning by example is important, and that's what I liked about what I did, because it was practical. You know, it wasn't just theory out of a book. You can't learn how to be an actor out of a book. You need to act. You need to be in shows, you need to do rehearsals, you need to do, you know, run-throughs, you need to rehearse, you need to do your technical rehearsals, your dress rehearsals, you need to go through it all properly. And the student theatre was a great place to practice all those skills. And I'll tell you what, some of the productions were really damn good. They really were good. And not only were there students in the theatre, but we also used to hire the theatre out, which used to cover the running costs for the students. It was an extracurricular thing. It wasn't part of their degree. It was a sort of an optional thing. But most of them used to say that they learnt more in 3 weeks in our little theatre than in 3 years with their head stuck in a book. I mean, really. It's not the way to learn, that isn't. Oh, I must have started on this bit before. I've given up on that bit for a while. See, if you get to a bit that's just not happening, I don't know what was going on there. It was obviously being cast off, and obviously a lot of stitches over the top of each other. Just leave it and go to a different bit. Anyway, getting back to your retirement dressing, how are you doing with that rail? You need to be really honest with yourself. And not just, is it too small? Is it ever going to fit me again? You know, is it going to suit the sort of lifestyle that I'm going to lead? I mean, you can look at what you thought were casual clothes when you were working, you know, that you used to wear at the weekend, and look at them now and think, yeah, actually they're not really that casual at all. I think if you had a particularly smart job where you wore, you know, like suits, you know, suit jacket, pencil skirt, you know, heels, that sort of thing, then what you often thought was really casual at the weekend probably wasn't all that casual at all, just saying, you know. So be honest with yourself. Look at things and say, where am I going to wear that? Like I said, plan your retirement. Plan what you get. What do you want to do? You know? How do you want to spend your days? Because if you sort that out first, then you'll know what sort of clothes you need to wear for it. And you know what? If you're sick of a whole lot of them and you just look at them and think, do you know what? I really don't like any of these anymore. They're just not me. Get rid of them. Seriously, if you can afford to, get rid of them, buy new clothes. I don't mean get rid of them like bin them, obviously. You know, either go for, like I said, the charity like Dress for Success, which is really doing well in New South Wales, and I think it's a great charity. I really do. I mean, there's nothing like women helping other women, is there? You know, I mean, if we can't do that, then we're in a bad way, aren't we? So there's that. There's, you know, local op shops, charity shops, Goodwill shops, I think they're called in the US, aren't they? You know, the Red Cross, all sorts of good causes. Well, like I said, so, you know, if you've got good things, you know, sell them on eBay. Use that money to buy other clothes. But be really, really honest. Or, you know, you're going to spend too long standing in front of your wardrobe going, oh, what shall I wear? I'm only going out for a coffee with my best friend, but I want to look nice, you know, and I can't wear that because it doesn't fit me, or that colour doesn't really suit me, or... You don't want to waste your time doing that. Time's precious. You know, spend the time with your friend. Have 2 cups of coffee instead of 1. Don't agonise over, you know, a whole load of clothes that aren't suitable, don't fit you, don't like the colour. Oh, I don't really want to get rid of it because it costs me a lot of money. Now, that's one thing. Don't do that. Don't look at it and go, oh, but, you know, those jeans are really expensive. I can't get rid of them. If they were really expensive, then sell them. You know, sell them on eBay or Poshmark or, you know, wherever. Or donate them, you know, if you don't need the money. What I find is if I donate, you know, a good designer pair of jeans, say, to an op shop, I always put a note in. And the lady down at the op shop, the local op shop, asked me to do this. She said, if you're putting anything in that's expensive, she said, we probably won't know the difference. She said, but the people that come in the shop will. She said, and I'd hate to sell a pair of jeans for $5 that I could get 50 for. So I'll leave a little note. And if you've got things with tags on, leave the tags on so people can see how much they cost. You know, then the charity can get as much money as possible, which would be great. I mean, Red Cross, I like donating to. I think they do a brilliant job throughout the world. I mean, they're often one of the first to arrive, you know, on the scene of a disaster. They do some brilliant work. And remember, nearly all the people that work for them are volunteers. That's another thing. Volunteer yourself. You know, if you want something to do, or if you find it difficult to just stop, you know what I mean? If you feel that you need to sort of wean yourself off working, you know, off a, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, a routine. If you miss the routine, do some volunteering. Work in a local op shop. They are always looking for people. Always. You know, and if you've got a bit of knowledge about fashion and how much things cost, all the better. Because I've often seen things priced up incorrectly in op shops that people have had a real, you know, it's been a real steal. I mean, I don't mean that to sound stingy, like, you know, I don't want people to get a bargain, but the thing is, this is for charity, so, you know what I mean? If somebody's paid $5 for something and it should have been 50, well, it's ripping the charity off a bit, isn't it? I'll tell you what I do like about the US is that you can get that, when you make a donation, you can get a receipt or something and it's tax deductible. You know, you get a receipt, I think, for roughly the value of what you've donated, which I think is brilliant. We don't do that here. I wish we did, because I think then people would donate better quality stuff, because quite frankly, I think that's why a lot of stuff that's donated to Goodwill stores in the US is a much higher quality than we get here. If there was the tax deduction thing, people would donate better quality items, they really would. Because, I mean, even if you just put my accountant's hat on for a minute, I mean, you might be a self-funded retiree like me, or, you know, whatever, have some investments, some, you know, small income. You still might fall into the tax bracket, so anything that's tax deductible is good. I'll tell you what, all accountants like their tax deductibles, and there are usually more of them than you know about. That's another thing. When you're retired, you've got more time to do. I mean, if it interests you, God, I mean, if financial stuff bores you to tears, don't bother. Give your tax return to a tax agent, let them do it. But if it interests you at all, have a bit of a look. Check to see if there's anything that you're missing out on as far as tax deductions go. God, I still like sewing though, I really do. Particularly restyling things, and that's the thing. Have a look on the things on your rack that you pulled out of your wardrobe. Have a look and see if there's a dress that might not fit you anymore, but you could probably make into a skirt. Or, look, if it's a really nice quality piece and the fabric's really nice and you really like the fabric, find a dressmaker. You know, take a couple of pieces to a dressmaker and say, you know, I was thinking, you know, could you maybe let this out, or, you know, put a zip in here, or turn this dress into a skirt. Dressmakers are usually pretty good with ideas as well as sewing skills, so take a few pieces along, have a yarn with them. You know, if you're good at drawing, draw something that you'd like. You know, if you look at something, and like those two skirts I bought, although look, I used to be able to draw, but then after I had the accident, after the quite severe bump on the head, which I know explains an awful lot, can't draw a matchstick man now. You know, some people have head injuries and they suddenly develop these wonderful skills, you know, start becoming brilliant artists and things like that. Well, mine was sort of the reverse. I was the runner-up in a competition just at sort of school level, you know, but it was run throughout the UK, and my painting was exhibited in the National Art Gallery, which I thought at the time was very cool. And like I said, and now I can't draw a thing, it's just gone. Right, really all the way around here. How far have I got to go? About 3 inches. Right, let's get this last bit done. And that's the first step over and done with. So how are you getting on with that rail then? Go on, dive into that wardrobe, be brave. It's good having a good sort out, you know, having a good clear out. You know, and you can go and get something new to fill the gap. You should be able to see gaps appearing in your wardrobe. The more you get into retirement, you know, as the weeks go by and you sort of develop a pattern, you know, a new sort of way of living, you start discovering the sort of things that you need to wear, and you look in your wardrobe and think, oh, I knew the battery would go. This is only the first stage of this dress. Well, the alterations to this dress, I should say. It's funny now, having said I lost the ability to draw, you know, and I had the accident, I could still sketch a costume. Strange that, isn't it? But just the costume, do you know what I mean? Without, I mean, usually, you know, you draw the figure first, then, you know, draw the costume on it. I just used to be able to draw the costume and imagine the person in it. The thing that I really used to love doing, and I think is something that, as just a member of the audience, you probably don't know that much about, are quick changes. I mean, that's something that doesn't happen on film. You know, theatre is immediate. You can't do, you know, take 21 to get this right. You've got to get it right the first time. Or do your damnedest to anyway. But there was a play we did called Gypsy Rose Lee. And, look, I won't go into the story because it's too much to talk about here. But needless to say, there's a quick change near the end of it where she's a sort of a cabaret performer, and she changes out of a late 19th century sort of cabaret type costume rather, into, you know, what a lady would have worn. So she transforms from a bit of a commoner into a lady. And I had 7.5 seconds to do that. And the back of her cabaret costume was velcroed all the way up. And it was the only way I could do it. So I just ripped the whole thing off. Luckily there was music at that particular time where you'd have heard the velcro ripping. And I had to hide behind a flat that was on stage. And I was on stage for about an hour waiting for this blooming change. And then she'd step out, you know, as a lady, gloves, hat, boots, the lot. It was brilliant, even though I say so myself. And I wish I'd kept a cutting of it, but you don't think at the time because you're just too busy and you're always doing stuff, and I suppose you'll think that you'll always be doing stuff like that, you know. The review in the local paper said about how remarkable the costume change was at the end, and that, you know, if you didn't know better, you'd have thought that there were two people. And it's just nice little things like that. You know, often you used to have to sit behind the door. There was a 2-story set on stage once, and I sat behind a door for the whole first act when somebody supposedly was going into their bedroom and getting undressed and putting a nightie and a sort of a negligee effort on, because there was no way that I could get on the set, you know, while the show was running. So often used to spend time on stage like that, sitting behind bits of scenery. So you need patience to do stuff like that. I'm telling you, boy, do you need patience. It's an art, that quick changes. It really is an art. And because I was wardrobe mistress, I always used to dress the, you know, whoever the leading lady or the leading man was, whoever was the most prominent person in the show. And if there were any really quick fire changes, that was always my thing, you know, because I sort of specialised in that. And I loved it. There was nothing like, you know, somebody just running up the stairs, going through a door and, you know, talking and saying, I'm just getting ready, you know, and then coming back through the door, and you can hear the gasp in the audience, you know, as they see the same person, but dressed in entirely different things, and it's happened in the space of about 10 seconds, literally. I mean, it was that quick. And I have to say, I was damn good at that. I was. As my dad used to say, if you don't blow your own trumpet, no will blow it for you. So sometimes you do have to blow your own trumpet. Now this last bit has been an absolute pig of a thing and doesn't want to be undone. It's where it's been machined over a few times. It's where they've finished off a Be interested to know how many people watching this video are sewers. Just leave me a comment down under, if you wouldn't mind, please. I'm just curious, I'd like to know. I do find that a lot of younger people don't sew. I mean, I think the thing is, when I was at school, I mean, I only went to all girls schools, but you know, girls used to do sewing classes and boys used to do woodwork because that's just how it was then. Quite frankly, it's a bit ridiculous, but I do know from teaching the students at uni that some of them had never even held a hammer before. You know, because they used to have to build their own sets and everything, and I used to have to take them through all of that and do all their lighting rigs and everything. But yeah, I used to do very basic, this is how we hold a hammer. You know, this is how you bang a nail in. It sounds ridiculous, but honestly, you know, a lot of younger people just don't have practical skills anymore. They just don't. You know, their parents they've often got, you know, both parents working. Parents are time poor. They haven't got time to teach their children practical things. You know, their children might have a nanny who's just, you know, looks after them, feeds them, bathes them, does whatever, but doesn't teach them practical skills, and all that's missing, you know. So I'd be really curious to see how many of you guys know how to sew. And look, no judgment, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, you know, it's something you have to be able to do. It's certainly not. It's not for everybody. I'm just curious. Because I'm a curious person. I like answers to questions, I always have. And there are still so many questions that I've had since I was a child that I've still not got answers to. Space fascinates me. It really does. I remember standing out on the doorstep of my family home when the moon landing had just happened. And my dad and I had been watching it on TV. My mum had gone to bed because she wasn't into that sort of thing. She just couldn't. No, she wasn't into it. Any sort of sci-fi type thing, or, you know, astronauts, spaceships, whatever, she was not interested at all. And my dad and I stood and looked up at the moon, and my dad said, "Look at that. There's a man up there." Well, there are two men up there. On the surface, anyway. And it was just one of those wow moments in your life. Do you know what I mean? And it's fascinating. And I still don't understand how the universe can go on forever. Because nothing can go on forever, but then it can't stop, can it? Because if it stops there, what's there? Do you know what I mean? What's... Oh, I don't know. I have a head full of questions. Who knows? I mean, I don't suppose I'll ever know the answer to that one. You know, where does the universe end? How big is it? Him indoors thinks it's a sort of a loop. You know what I mean? I just no. I don't see it like that at all. I really don't. No. Well, this is coming along really well now. I'm looking forward to seeing how this looks without this waist. It was a bit silly putting an empire line waist there with elastic in, and then about 2 or 3 inches further down, putting a waistline in, elasticated also. It's about 1 inch left to do, and I cannot. What is going on here? It is where there are loads of stitches over each other. They've cast off here. So they've sewn across as well as along. That's why it's really difficult to get that bit undone. Oh, I'm so nearly there. I don't like to give up on anything. Yes, it's got, as well as the seam that I'm undoing along that way, it's got a seam across across the ways. I'd hold it up to the camera and show you, but the trouble is the cotton is such a good match, the colour of the cotton with the colour of the fabric, that you wouldn't even be able to see it. And it doesn't exactly make it easy to unpick when it's this good a match. You see, it's doing bits like this where you can easily, you know, run out of patience and just go, oh, just cut through this bit, and then you'd be cutting a hole in the fabric. And then all that patience that you put into it all the way around there be wasted. Because you know what I'm like with my OCD. If you're going to do something, do it well. Just picking the loose bits of cotton off. Well, this is a real other thing, this is. I'm telling you. Do you know what? I think I'm going to have to admit defeat with this last bit, because it's just that. It's that last bit there. You see what I mean? Just there. See, it's sewn across that way. It's sewn across that way as well as that way. And they're really tiny stitches. And I'm really bothered that if I do it, if I start picking at them when I'm tired, which I am now, that I'll be picking a hole in the blooming fabric. I hate giving up there. Well, I won't give up. I mean, I'll pick it up again tomorrow and have a go at it. I think actually that is the best thing to do, really. Oh, actually I've got hold of a bit of the cotton. So it's very ladylike, isn't it? Pulling the cotton like that with my teeth. What would my mother say? I don't know. I really don't know. No, I give in. Due to the fact that this was a somewhat lengthy video, shall we say, I'll be recording part 2 tomorrow, where you'll be able to see the maxi dress finished, pressed and tried on. And I'll be interested to read in the comments down under what you think of the restyling. I still can't get over that coincidence with the Chloé dress and those 2 mini skirts that I'm combining to make a midi skirt. I mean, who would have thought it? Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video or any of my other videos, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel. You know, come and join the family here. We're a nice bunch of people, and yeah, it'd be lovely to have you on board. Also, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up so the algorithm knows that my channel is in existence. And as I said before, please feel free to leave a comment. I always love to read them and I will always reply to them. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. À bientôt mes amis. Au revoir et bonsoir.